Foreign Minister, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Christian. Very happy to be with you.
It is an amazing opportunity, as some have called it, a risky opportunity. Are you surprised by how quickly this moment has arrived? I mean, let's face it, just 4 months ago, Kim Jong-un was talking about pressing nuclear buttons from his desk, and President Trump was responding in kind.
I think we're all surprised, obviously pleasantly surprised. I think by all indications we are headed towards a very successful summit between my president and Chairman Kim tomorrow. As I keep telling my colleagues, I feel like somebody stepped on the accelerator at the beginning of the year, and it's been nonstop since then.
How do you account for it?
Clearly, credit goes to President Trump. He's been determined to come to grips with this from day one. My president also since day one, and I think the presidents Moon and Trump have worked very closely together, sometimes in complementarity, sometimes in different messaging. But at the end, the message was North Korea will not be accepted, never be accepted as a nuclear power. And if it continues on this road and provokes that, every provocation will be met with further sanctions. But we've also said, but you need to change it, but if you change course, there's a better future on offer that we are willing to work with you.
So now comes the hard part. What does Kim Jong-un want? Your president has said that he has put down no preconditions, not even the demand that they always make, which is the removal of US forces and ironclad security guarantees. I mean, really? There are no preconditions? You don't expect them to ask for anything?
He did say, what he did say was, if the threat of the military threat is removed, if it is guaranteed security, then there's no reason for him to have nuclear weapons. So those are two big items that he's put on the table. We will know better with greater clarity at the table. The details of the denuclearization commitment is really to be elaborated and explored at the summit table.
Denuclearization may mean different things to different people. As you heard President Trump, even just in the last couple of days, said, what does it mean to him? It means dismantling and getting rid of the North Korea's nuclear weapons program, just getting rid of it, ending it. And you, I believe, feel the same way.
Yes, yes. Well,
what do you think they mean by denuclearization?
Again, they clearly know what we want. And also, they had committed to the denuclearization jointly with South Korea in 1992, which was exactly the, removing any nuclear weapons and weapons development programs from the Korean Peninsula. They pretty much recommitted to that in the six-party agreement of 2005. So our goal is clear. Denuclearization is a goal, but it's also a process. You need to have a process to get to that goal. So I think the task is then spelling out that process.
Critics have said that, this is not the first time a North Korean leader has talked about denuclearization or wanting to end the war with a formal peace treaty. But before, it's been sort of a bottom-up kind of thing. In other words, economic aid has been given, humanitarian assistance has been given, some sanctions have been lifted, and boom, the whole thing collapses. So people are saying that in order for this to be more successful, that your president, for instance, in this summit, needs to establish a top-down process and be very clear about what your demands are. Do you think that that is what's going to happen? I mean, is your demand that sanctions won't be removed until you can see verifiable dismantling of the nuclear program?
That is exactly our position. So until we see visible, meaningful steps, action taken by North Korea towards denuclearization, the sanctions are in place. Regardless of the intention that we read, in the end, it will be the actions that we will need to see.
What is on the table from President Moon's perspective? We've heard that he wants to talk about a formal end to the war. Is that on the table? A peace treaty?
Peace in a peace is I think yes. At some point, we will need a peace treaty to replace the armistice that was signed in 1953. But peace is also about the reality. You can't go from an armistice agreement and day one to a peace. You need to create the reality of peace by removing hostilities. And then when there is sufficient confidence on both sides, then you're ready to sign a peace treaty.
So it's not something you're going to immediately put on the table. In other words, signing a formal peace treaty before even getting to the disarmament.
I think that would be unrealistic. I think, certainly ascertaining the understanding and the aspiration on the part of both leaders in that direction, it will be a good thing, and I'm hoping that will happen. But putting something on the table to be signed is, long off in the future.
Do you feel a lot of pressure? Does South Korea feel a lot of pressure for this summit meeting? Is a lot riding on it?
Yes. Pressure, but also a great deal of support. The president has, basically put his leadership on the line by this huge initiative. But I think he does so with confidence and a clear set of where he wants to take this.
How important is it that Kim Jong-un is going to come down to the demilitarized zone, to the peace village, and step kind of over the border into the South Korean part of...
Well, I think that alone is very significant. As you know, the two previous ones were held in Pyongyang. They had made all the arrangement. We had placed trust in them to make sure that the summit took place. They are placing their trust in us. That's a good sign.
What do you think will constitute success after the summit wraps up on Friday?
Some kind of a joint statement that spells out the shared understanding of the two leaders on a broad set of issues, which is denuclearization, peace, and South-North relations. If we can put in writing the North Korean leaders' commitment to denuclearization, that would be a very solid outcome. But then this to be, this will be the course setter for the next historic engagement, which is the U.S.-North Korea summit.
And how do you analyze? You must have been listening to what he's been saying to his own people in speeches and statements over the last several days and weeks. And the last one was when he essentially declared North Korea as a nuclear power and said that we need a new strategic course, and that is economic development.
Right.
Do you see that as genuine, that he's willing to have a different view for his country and that he's trying to bring his people along? I mean, he doesn't really have to. He's the ultimate power there.
When he so clearly states that in his declaration, I think it's not just rhetoric. It's a clear commitment that I am going to be delivering this for this country. So I think it's genuine.
Many people thought President Trump was being very dangerous with all the fire and the fury and the my button is bigger than your button and all of that kind of stuff. Did that concentrate South Korea's minds? Did you feel you had to really get out ahead of the curve and see if there was another way forward rather than a potential conflict?
I think in the end, the all options on the table, us consistently on the peaceful resolution side has in fact worked, in complementarity. But the first meeting between Presidents Moon and Trump clearly spelled out the joint position on this, which was pressure and sanctions, but also dialogue towards a peaceful resolution. And that hasn't changed. I think the nuancing of that message on a day-to-day basis was ups and downs, but that has been the consistent joint stance.
Human rights have always been an issue when it comes to North Korea. And there are people in the human rights community and elsewhere who are concerned that this is not part of the formal agenda. Can you tell me whether it will be on the agenda? Will you raise the issue of human rights, given that North Korea is considered to be, if not the worst, well then one of the worst violators?
We're not sure North Korea is ready to respond to this issue at this point. But the summit is being structured to be very flexible. So depending upon how the discussions go, I wouldn't rule it out. but
You wouldn't rule out your president raising
but
it.
I wouldn't count on it being there either.
What is your fallback option? What is plan B if this summit somehow doesn't work? If you don't get the general statement, if you don't get a feeling that actually this is going to lead somewhere?
Well, I don't want into hypotheticals, but I think past experience tells us that however difficult the situation is, you need to engage. You need constantly to have them at the table.
And after this summit, what then does President Moon, how does he engage with President Trump? Is there going to be a meeting? What does he do? Does he carry back a message that it's a red light, a green light, a yellow light? Will he advise as to whether it's a good idea
I'm
to
sure
have a meeting?
our two presidents will be immediately on the phone for my president to debrief President Trump. And depending upon how then the U.S.-North Korea goes, there could be a trilateral summit.
I mean, at this point, you're confident that there will be a Trump-Kim meeting?
There will be.
Foreign Minister, thank you very much
Thank
indeed.
you, Christian. Thank you.